Hello. I'm going to give it a minute for people to sign on and then we'll get started. Thank you guys for coming. All right, I'll get going and then people can jump on whenever they can. Hi everyone, my name is Danielle Angelari and I'm the Executive Director of NAMI Northern Illinois. And for those of you who are not familiar, we are an affiliate of the National Alliance on Mental Illness that serves Winnebago, Boone, and surrounding counties in our region. We do this through offering support, education, advocacy, and hope to people touched by mental illness and the community as a whole. So I just wanted to start off with some updates on our end through the NAMI organization. We do have a webinar to follow this next Tuesday at noon by 3 of our members of our NAMI in Our Own Voice program. So kind of similar to this, they're going to share their story of lived experience. This presentation provides a personal perspective of mental illness, and as the leaders with lived experience, you can, ask them questions freely about what it's like and what helps them. So for those who are family members or significant others of people living with a mental health condition that may need an extra hand, registration for our family education course is open for both the Spanish and English versions. It will start early March, and I will put the registration link in the chat box for you guys if anyone, whether it's yourself or someone you might know, might want to take that class. And I will get on to tonight's main event. So in the behavioral health world, the term lived experience is often synonymous with people who have faced mental health or substance use challenges. That's a vital but narrow perspective. There are many additional experiences, such as being in a marginalized population, being a survivor of trauma or abuse, and the list goes on. These additional experiences are valuable to the role and can help provide a better, more competent response to peers. This includes the need for leaders who are all inclusive. People with lived experience can empathize on the highest level and advocate on behalf of those currently unable to do so. People with lived experience actively challenge existing dynamics and promote the development of more equitable care. And people with lived experience take the most crucial piece and build and develop trust in their peers. You don't need a master's degree to do that, to make people feel safe. In fact, a clinical approach can at times be a deterrent, particularly to people that have faced prejudice or otherwise have had negative experiences in the mental health care system. Research also indicates peer roles contribute to an improved sense of hope, empowerment, and social inclusion for those accessing resources. So tonight I want to introduce you to some of our wonderful peer supporters in our community. Then I'll allow them to take it over. So bear with me because the intros are a little bit longer or shorter comparatively. But so Laura Kane is a mental health advocate, NAMI Northern Illinois parent and caregiver support leader for almost 2 years, and the founder of the local organization Marshmallows Hope. And I'll let her tell you more about that in a little bit. Warren Boykin was born in Cleveland, Ohio, where until he came to Rockford to attend what's now known as Rockford University. After graduating with a BA degree in political science, Warren worked as a mid-range and personal computer specialist before taking a job as a behavioral specialist with the Center for Mental Health at Swedish American Hospital, where he worked for 20 years. Warren has been a member of NAMI and a facilitator with the NAMI Connection Recovery Support Group for adults since 2015. He coordinates and participates as the mental health professional in the NAMI Provider Education Seminar, which provides training to social service organizations on compassionate and collaborative mental health care. Warren has also trained and has taught classes in cognitive behavioral therapy, the Wellness Recovery Action Plan technique, and is in the process of obtaining his Certified Recovery Support Specialist and RAP Facilitator certifications. He currently lives in Rockford with his wife, Kimberly, and they're the parents of 2 successful adult children. We have Susan Lewis, who has been a member of NAMI Northern Illinois for over 10 years. She's one of our NAMI family support group leaders and has been doing that for about a year now. And then finally, we have Kati Beck. She is a retired United States Air Force veteran who has served as a peer support specialist for both the Department of Veteran Affairs and in the private sector for nearly 9 years. She has spoken at the Chicago Foundation for Women Rush Personal PAC and had her story presented on Capitol Hill to advocate for change to the military justice system for sexual assault survivors. She has been in personal recovery for 12 years and continues to model recovery and advocate for those who are struggling with mental health, substance abuse, and homelessness. So thank you all very much for doing this tonight. We all appreciate it. And if the audience, if you guys have any questions for the group, please use the question and answer feature and we will get those answered right away. And now I'm going to hand it over to you, Laura.
Thank you. So thank you everybody for joining us tonight. I am going to talk to you guys about the power of peer support. So what exactly is peer support? Peer support is when someone uses their lived experiences to help each other. Peers help peers successfully engage in their own recovery by sharing experiences, encouragement, and instilling a sense of hope and skill building to promote recovery. Examples of peer support or lived experience include trauma, substance abuse, living with mental illness, and grief. Why choose peer support? What peers do is basically, and we will go over our own personal stories with you guys, but basically we use self-disclosure and our own lived experiences as a powerful tool to help others who may be going through the same circumstances. We deliver hope to people, facilitate person-centered goals. You use self-determination as a guiding principle, assist in mental health daily management, how to cope with different scenarios, how to cope with different things. Just by talking about it, it can be helpful. And then we can also assist you in being the bridge to clinical care. If you are living with mental illness, or if you have a family member that's living with mental illness, through our lived experience, we can assist you in helping you obtain that clinical care that may be needed. Cultivating empowering and supportive relationships and community inclusion. So what that means is, by helping each other out, by attending these peer support led groups, we are empowering each other and creating supportive relationships, just by being there for one another through these difficult times that we may be living. By sharing your experiences in a safe setting, you can gain hope and develop supportive relationships. Peer support allows your voice to be heard and provides an opportunity for your personal needs to be met. It encourages empathy, productive discussion, and a sense of community. You'll benefit from others' experiences, discover your inner strength, and empower yourself by sharing your own experiences in a non-judgmental space. So here at NAMI, we offer peer support groups. And before we go into the actual peer support groups, I'm going to go ahead and allow our panelists tonight to go through their own personal stories of why or how they have benefited from peer support. So Kati, take it away.
Hi, everybody. So gosh, it's been a while since I've actually shared my own personal story. So please bear with me because it's, not always easy. So I grew up in an extremely abusive household and spent most of my childhood either living at other people's houses or sleeping in my car or sleeping in the cemetery. I lived in a small town and they didn't, I was the only person that had divorced parents, and they didn't believe that I was being abused. Teachers taught me how to not cry, things like that. So I joined the military to get away from all of it. And shortly after I joined the military, I was kidnapped by several of my fellow airmen and tortured and sexually assaulted, and then released. And then it happened again later on in my career. And the second time that it happened, I reported it. And I went through the entire reporting process, and they ended up dismissing all the charges against the man that sexually assaulted me, because they had enough proof that something had happened, but not enough proof that I said no. And so I kind of started to spiral, and I was finally, after almost 12 years of military service, I was medically retired for PTSD. Um, and military mental health is a little different. So at the time, I lived in Southern California and 16 miles out in the middle of the desert, completely isolated from everybody. And that is where I stayed for a while until I could gather the strength to start to move on with my life. But even so, doing that, it was very hard for me because I didn't have anybody. I felt like my entire life had just been this tragedy, and that this was just how things went for me. And so after I moved home a couple years later, I got a job working in a not-for-profit that helped veterans that actually had peer support specialists working there. And I never really actually had a conversation with them, but shortly after I started working there, I heard them having a conversation about how there was all these female veterans that lived in my area that had experienced sexual trauma while they're in the military, but they couldn't get help for them. And so I didn't really know a lot about having a civilian job, but I did know that you don't go and tell your boss you have mental health issues. And so it took me a little while, and I finally worked up the courage, and I went in and I told him my story. And I was like, if there's some way that you can use me to help these other veterans, I would rather tell my story so they don't have to. Or, because at the time it was, this was before the Me Too movement. And so it was, it still looked poorly upon if you talked about sexual assault. Like, people looked down on you. And even when I started telling my story, people would, tell me that, they would call me all kinds of awful names and say that I asked for it. And I actually, even to this day, I've had people tell me that I deserved what happened to me because I was a woman trying to do a man's job and things like that. So I started, when I started telling my story, more and more female veterans came forward and started telling me theirs. And I realized the things that I had gone through, it wasn't just me. There was other people that had been through that, and that I wasn't completely alone. That my experiences were not actually uncommon for the military. And so that, while it's, horrifying and sad, it gave me a lot of strength, because I didn't feel like PTSD is very isolating, and it's very, I had been isolated my whole life, and suddenly I had these other people that had been through what I went through. So eventually I became a certified peer support specialist so that I could help other veterans that had been where I had been and struggled with the things that I had. And this is just like one tip of the iceberg, but that was the one motivating factor for me to become a peer support was the sexual trauma. And now I work at the VA, and I've worked there for 6 years this week. And I work with other veterans that have struggled with all sorts of different mental health struggles or homelessness or substance use. And I can advocate for them and their needs. And all those things that Laura showed on that last screen, you know, I've set up community-based groups. I'm the ultimate groupie. I have run 42 groups in 5 years, and just all sorts of things. My whole goal is to get veterans out and moving and connecting with other veterans, and then connecting with their communities so that, you know, they can have that support that, you know, I found so valuable in their other peers.
It's amazing. Thank you for sharing. And I'm sorry that you had to endure all of that. But I'm glad that you do what you do to help others. And I'm glad that you tell your story so that people know that they're not alone, because that's exactly what this is about. So thank you. Sue, do you want to go ahead and tell us your story?
Sure. My name's, well, it says Susan Lewis. I go by Sue. Susan's my official name. I came to NAMI a little over 11 years ago. My husband has schizophrenia, by the way. And I was just sitting watching the news one night, and it was if you don't know, NAMI has every year in the fall, they have a rally for mental health. And that year they were outside the Justice Center. I had never heard of NAMI. I didn't know what it was. And then when they were talking about it, I said, I want to Google that, because I had never heard anything like that before. And I brought it up. And the first thing that caught my eye was the support groups. So I found the support group for people that have adults in their life with a mental illness, living with a mental illness. And it really opened my eyes. It was not like any other support group I'd been to, any other thing. My younger son is mentally challenged and has type 1 diabetes. I've gone to groups for him that I stopped going to because I love, this is such the difference. NAMI, the support groups for NAMI have a structure. So no one is allowed to dominate the discussion. We do go around if there's a lot, if there's a lot of people, we have a 2-minute time to introduce yourself and say who you're there for, what's going on, and we come back. But no one is allowed to dominate the discussion. We don't give medical advice to people as a group. We don't say you should see Dr. So-and-so or try this treatment or this drug for your loved one. Everybody's body chemistry and brain chemistry is different. So what works for one doesn't work for another. And I just liked it after a while when I began to open up, I just liked the fact that we're all there for each other. We've been through the same thing. That's the whole thing about a support group, is that you're with people that know what it's like, what you're going through, if you're going through something, and they're not shocked or disturbed by it. Everybody's been there to some degree. Just the fact that we don't offer advice, but we do offer support tools. We call it our principles of support, tools to help the person that has the loved one with mental illness. I think the closest we've ever gone to advice is just telling people, you should read the book, I Don't Need Help. I'm not sick, I don't need help. Because that's a universal thing in the support groups, is sometimes the people are resistant to treatment. And I just started facilitating a little over a year ago. I had the training. In case you wonder, we are trained. We don't show up out of nowhere. And they, I suffer from anxiety. I'm so nervous, before each support group, but the people just say, just thank you for letting us come and share our story. We're like the last group I was at in person, we went we're going back to virtual next week. I'm immunocompromised and want to stay home as much as I can. They said, well, we didn't solve the world's problems, but I feel so much better just coming and talking about my situation.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's exactly what it's about. It's about just being able to come and talk about your life, talk about what you're going through in that moment, you know. Warren, why don't you tell us about how, you know, your personal experience?
Thank you, Laura. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, well, my name's Warren Boykin, and I've been a facilitator with the NAMI Connection support group for adults living with mental illness for about 6 years, since 2015. I think Sue did an excellent job of discussing how the training and the guidelines and principles of support are used in all of our groups to give a structure that people can depend on. We generally have 2 facilitators for each group, so we back each other up, and in case somebody needs individual attention, sometimes we can take that person one-on-one. But actually, if you heard in my bio, I worked at the Center for Mental Health at Swedish American Hospital for 20 years, just about, and met many, many people there. And some of those people also came to our support groups later. But I think it was Danielle, or maybe it was Laura, who mentioned the fact that we do self-disclose when we're in our groups. Of course, our groups are all confidential, but when you're working as a certified recovery support specialist, self-disclosure is part of what you do. Well, working in the Center for Mental Health, it was a little bit different. So I had the work that I was doing there with groups of people. I taught lots of groups in cognitive behavioral therapy and wellness. But the work that we did for NAMI was a little bit different because, of course, I disclosed that I have depression and ADHD, and that's not a problem in our support groups. But it's a little bit different in the professional world when you say on the job that you've got depression or ADHD, let's say. I didn't realize it, but that can be kind of a detriment when you're on the job and people, there's kind of a stigma associated with mental illness. And even when you're working in a place that's supposed to support people with mental illness, there can be a little bit of, let's say, stigma attached to saying that you're dealing with depression. And I hope that that's something that's going to change over the years. But for right now, I see and talk to a lot of people who are dealing with what I deal with, depression, anxiety, or attention deficit. These are things that are very common, I think, but can be kind of problematic when you get on the job. Right now, actually, I've been unemployed since last April. And this is something I've been working since I was just out of college, and that's 40 years ago. And this is the first time I've experienced going through not having a steady paycheck every 2 weeks. So just what Laura called lived experience, I think going through some things gives us insight. And we really, as Sue said, don't want to give you advice. We just want you to know that we understand if you're dealing with some things, we're going through some things. We don't consider ourselves experts. But the interesting thing since the pandemic and going virtual through Zoom, we've done more with Facebook, having groups and having individuals reach out through electronic means. So I think that this peer support is important. It's important to have people who can empathize, and it's evolving over time. Hopefully, as I said, we can help to reduce the stigma and let people know that it's okay that everybody goes through things. And just in closing, I just want to say that my experience on the unit, working on the psych unit, was to say that we see everybody. That's what I thought. Because I think everybody goes through things at different times. And just having that human contact with people. We're there every Sunday since 2015, and except for Christmas and Easter and the 4th of July. But we've also added a group on Wednesday evenings that meets at the Rosecrans Ware Center in person. We've had to suspend that in-person meeting, so we're virtual on Sundays and Wednesdays. So there's also a Facebook page you can look for announcements and things like that. Check the calendar on on the NAMI Northern Illinois website for more details. And that's what I have to say. Thank you very much. I'm
I keep
sorry.
talking, sorry, I keep talking and not realizing I mute myself. So thank you very much for sharing that, Warren. And then, you know, as far as me, my story is a very tragic story, and but it has led me to meet a lot of very supportive people walking in the same path. And so unfortunately for me, in 2018, I lost my 14-year-old son to suicide. He had never been diagnosed with any sort of, you know, mental illness, such as depression or anxiety or anything like that. And so prior to that happening to me, you know, I had never heard of words like mental illness or depression or suicide. And when it happened, it left me in such, you know, the trauma like just took over me. I knew that I had to get help to help my surviving children, and for my own mental health, you know, to try to navigate through everything that we were going through as a family. And so NAMI Northern Illinois was the first. There was another organization called the Tommy Corral Memorial Foundation who actually ran a grief support group for parents. And I was invited to go to this amazing grief support group. And believe it or not, when I first went, I felt really angry. And my first reaction was, how could I be a part of a group where I'm in a room with a bunch of parents who were experiencing the loss of a child? Like, my thoughts were, why couldn't I be part of a cool, like, golf club mom group or something, right? So this was a club that I did not want to be a part of. But as I went through my journey of healing, I actually found it very comforting knowing that there were other parents sadly walking my journey, but that could actually relate to exactly how I was feeling. And then I decided through NAMI Northern Illinois, getting connected with them, I decided to start facilitating the parent support group for parents who live with children who are struggling, who live with, you know, a mental illness. And we can't do this alone as parents, you guys. You know, we really need to, you know, when we're in these circumstances, I mean, it takes a village. Like, just listening to other people talk about their lived experience gives us insight on how we can help our own children, or we can help our our own family members, right? Or help ourselves. And so that's what these peer support groups have done for me personally, is they have allowed me to go through this really terrible experience, but they've, the people that are in these groups, they have been my support and healing. And so that's why I really truly believe in the power of peer support. I believe that going through these things can help others. And so that's why I do what I do. As far as the chat, sorry, let me read off a couple of, there's a comment from Joan that says, thank you so much, all of you, for being vulnerable and so brave to share your personal story. Your stories are so valuable for others' recovery as you give the message of hope. So thank you for saying that. And we appreciate that. I'm going to pull the slideshow back up. I want to tell you guys about the NAMI peer support groups. So one of the things I love about NAMI Northern Illinois is that we offer these groups free of charge to anyone who wants and needs to participate in these groups. These groups are designed for individuals and family members of individuals living with mental illness. As we all discussed, they're all led by peers with lived experience or mental health conditions. So like I myself, after everything that I went through, I now live with depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress disorder. So, sometimes I like to join Warren's group, which is the connection group, and we'll go into a little bit more detail about those in a few minutes. But I like to join that group because there's days where my anxiety is so bad that just being in that group with other people who have anxiety or who have lived through the same things that I lived through, like just listening to them helps me get through my day by just hanging out in that 90-minute long meeting. And so most of our groups through NAMI are about 90 minutes long. There is no specific medical therapy or treatment that we endorse. Again, we're not medical, we're not doctors, we're not medically trained individuals. We are just peers living with the same sort of conditions. And everything, as Warren had mentioned too, everything that you say in those groups is confidential. When we leave the group, it's not like we go and we talk about, so-and-so said this or that. No, nothing like that. Like, it's kind of like what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. What happens in NAMI peer support groups stay in NAMI's peer support groups, guys. Some of the benefits that you will get by joining these groups, you can aim for, building better coping skills, finding the strength and sharing your experience, talking about our experience is, or our traumas or our thoughts or our depressions, like that can be really difficult. But when you're in this group setting and you know that it's a safe place to talk freely about what you're going through or what you're living through in that moment, it's empowering. It's empowering to hear others sharing their stories, and it allows you to finally come out and tell us your own experiences. And it's a no judgment zone. Nobody is judged. Nobody there in any group will judge anyone's pains. We encourage forgiving ourselves and rejecting any guilt. As a mom who lost a child to suicide and went through this parent support group, I lived with a lot of guilt that I had to learn to let go of and live through. And it's not easy, you guys, but without these support groups, I don't think that I would be where I am today had I not been surrounded by others who were going through the same thing. Embrace humor as health, or as healthy. We like to laugh. We like to talk about fun things. We're not just there to be Debbie Downers and to tell horrible stories. Like, sometimes ridiculousness happens in our world too. And it's funny to have a sense of humor and to joke around and to have those peers to like just be you with. We accept that we cannot solve every single problem of our lives. We understand that mental health conditions are no one's fault and can be traumatic. So again, you know, we realize, like, as your peers, that living with depression, living with anxiety, post-traumatic stress, I mean, there's a really huge stigma that our world needs to break down. You know, we need to normalize talking about mental health. We need to normalize talking about depression. Men need to cry. Like, it's okay to not be okay. Not just men, but women, children. Like, we need to teach our kids that this world is not perfect, and we need to destigmatize mental illness, because if you were to break a leg today, you would go to the hospital to get treatment for that leg. Why not normalize going to the hospital or to the doctor to be treated for a mental illness? Just because we can't see it, you know, we need to break that down. And if you need any accommodations to participate in our group, you know, please contact our office. We'll have contact information on in the chat. The experience of living with a mental health condition can ultimately provide one with unique insights and abilities to help their peers. Helping others can aid people with mental health conditions in building their confidence and maintaining their own health. We see each other's courage, we reject the stigma, and we find hope. That's what these peer support groups do for us. The NAMI Connection group, which Warren just discussed, currently they're meeting on Zoom on Wednesdays and Sundays. It's every Sunday from 2 to 3:30, and then on Wednesdays from 5:30 to 7:30. You can visit our website, naminorthernillinois.org, for more information about the groups and how to join them. Some of them do require registration for you to get a link, and others do not. So you can get that information on the website. The NAMI Family Support Group, that meets on the first Tuesday of the month from 7 to 8:30, and that's virtual on Zoom. And currently the third Tuesday of the month, 7 to 8:30 as well. And Sue, you said that those are virtual right now, right? Okay, so eventually once COVID slows down, hopefully, then we will go back to in person, but as of right now, they are virtual, so you do need to register to get that link sent to you guys. The parent support group, we're actually doing something a little bit different. We're not meeting in a group setting currently because of the pandemic. We realize that raising a child who is living with a mental illness or emotional disorder is not an easy task. And we understand, again, that it takes a village. So what we're doing with the parent support group currently is we're meeting one-on-one. So like, if you need the additional support, if you just want to have somebody to talk to, you would contact us, and then you would set up a time to meet with me. We would go out for coffee and just casually, you know, have that peer support. We do want to get back to the group setting, but for now, this is what's working best. And we do work around your schedule. So, you know, again, don't hesitate to give us a call or contact us through NAMI. The Teen Group Hope group, that is, there's no registration required. They meet the first and third Tuesday of every month from 5:45 to 7 p.m. at the Tommy Corral Memorial Foundation, which is located in Loves Park. And it's for individuals 13 through 19 years old living with a mental health condition. And then if you know, you need additional information about that, we do have the contact information available to you. There's also an adult group, Hope group, that meets every Wednesday from 5:30 to 7 p.m. And they meet at the Rosecrans Harrison campus in Rockford. I'm not sure if they actually are doing in person or they went virtual. However, this group is open for any adult 18 or older. And we'll get clarification once Danielle hops back on as to whether they are actually doing in person or not.
So Laura, I just want to tell you that yes, they are in person, and also they're adding the Friday group back for adult group hope as well. Starting October 20, October, what? Sorry, January 21st. At Along the Path Counseling every Friday at 3:30.
Okay.
And again, I'll follow up with an email to everyone tomorrow if you're interested in a schedule.
Okay, perfect. And sorry about that. I'm not sure what I did with my slideshow there. But the last slide, are there any questions, you guys? And thank you, Danielle, for clarifying that. I wasn't quite sure. So I'll check the chat really quick. And we have Erin, who is the executive director with Circle of Change. Her group actually, she would like to extend an invitation to any veterans who would like to meet. And Kati, actually, can you explain what Circle of Change is so that they can get better understanding?
Oh, sure, you're gonna make me do it in front of Aaron, so now I'm gonna be nervous. No, it's an awesome program. I love Circle of Change. I always kind of compare it to like the whole pit bulls and parolees thing. And where, you know, you take dogs that have these behavioral issues and you work with the dogs to help them to overcome some of their issues. And in doing that, it forces you to kind of look at some of your own issues and how you respond to things, and you have to overcome those things because you have to be a strong leader for your dogs. But it's a very cool program. You get to spend a lot of time playing with dogs, which is great. I bring my dog Tater Tot. So hopefully that was good. Aaron, give me a thumbs up.
All right. And then Jonathan, we'd love to connect with you. Thank you for being here today. We actually have resources available and support groups available for veterans. And through Marshmallows Hope, which I'm the founder of, we also offer support and things like that. So we'll send you guys all of the information. We'll get that information to Danielle to pass on to you guys. Are there any other questions that you may have?
Did you see the one from Joan?
I did not. Let me go back. Do you have it?
Yeah, I can read it to you. As an agency, many of our programs will benefit from individuals with lived experience or is a program requirement. What do you suggest is the best way to inform peers of these opportunities for employment?
It's a good question. Okay.
If I,
Anybody want to answer that?
since I'm looking for a job, but that's beside the point. We do have a Facebook page called NAMI Connection. And of course, there's the NAMI website, the NAMI Northern Illinois.org. Danielle, I'm sure you'd be happy to pass along job opportunities, wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's wonderful to hear.
Yeah, and I mean, posting these types of things through employers, you know, that helps break down that barrier of the stigma that we were talking about, like letting people know that it's okay to not be okay, and to, you know, encourage your employees to attend these groups. I mean, that's amazing. So thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any other? Go ahead. Sorry, Warren.
I just wanted to mention that having been a facilitator for so long, one thing that I've had a chance to do is to work with many people who have gone from just group members or even just being casually interested in the group to becoming facilitators. And Sue mentioned how people who are facilitators go through training through NAMI. I worked for IBM and I've worked for, various companies. And I have to say that the NAMI training is excellent. And one of the things that I've really enjoyed is seeing people grow from, even when I've seen them be at their lowest point in the hospital to becoming facilitators and then going on and being successful in other careers is something I've really enjoyed over the years. So I encourage people to join and become members of NAMI and become facilitators and help other people as you become stronger.
Yeah, and the same thing like with me, my personal experience, I was the person seeking help and then became a facilitator. So I mean, the opportunity is there, and there's something that really, at least in my experience, that there's something about helping others that brings healing, personal healing. When you've gone through something traumatic or when you are living with depression and you can actually use your pain to help someone else, like there's just something beautiful and healing about that. So I definitely encourage it. And any other comments or any other questions? If not, then I will turn it back over to Danielle. And Danielle, thank you so much for everything that you do and for having us on here tonight to talk about our experience and about the importance of these groups.
Thank you guys. I don't know if you want to wait till the end to do this, but I was curious, would you guys be willing to share like one of your favorite moments from group, like something that's really stuck out to you? If you want to do it now, we can. Is there something like overbearing, like you think of right away?
Well, one thing I did want to mention, Aaron, I saw a comment come into the chat saying that peer-to-peer support is important as well. And one thing that I've also experienced is developing friendships with other facilitators. And sometimes when we're going through maybe a particularly troubling day or something like that, I might get a call from another facilitator or a chat message, and we'll just talk and share between each other. And I'm not looking for solutions as much as just somebody who I know can understand and relate to what I'm going through. So it's good to have to make some friends through the organization as well.
Anyone else have a
And my-
favorite? Oh,
Yeah,
sorry, go
in
ahead.
my group, we always end with asking what you're going to, not always, but most of the time end with, what are you going to do for yourself this week? Just to benefit yourself outside of anything else. I like to end that way.
I like that. Laura, Katie, do you guys have a aha favorite moment?
Go ahead, Katie. Do you have one or do you want me to go? I put you on the spot.
I've done so many groups for so long. I'm trying to think of what a good one would be. Most recent one. No, I don't know. I'm trying to think. Give me a minute.
I can go then. So actually the most recent group that I attended in a group setting was the Connections group. And there was a day where Warren and I were helping somebody else out outside of group. But then that evening, it was never planned for me. Like I didn't have any plans to go to group, right? But it was just one of those days. And I was like, Warren, okay, I'll come with you. And I ended up going to the Connections group. And these two ladies that I had never met like showed up, and they had like, some pretty heavy loads like that they were carrying on their shoulder, and they just kind of, puked them out in group. And it just turned out that I was there, which again, I was never even supposed to be there. It just like happened, by accident. I guess. And their story, like I mentioned something, and I had no idea, obviously, that these people were going through any of this, but I shared something about my story. And then it was all of a sudden like, oh my God, I needed to hear that. And that it was just, there was something so amazing about it that I absolutely loved. Like, I loved the fact that it was a meant to be type moment, you know, like I was meant to share, to help somebody. And here we were, two complete strangers that had never met. And so it's just a good feeling to be able to do that.
It's funny because I was going to say that one of my favorite moments was when Laura came to my group. So you stole my thunder.
Thank you, guys.
I thought of mine. I guess since I've had most of my groups for a long time now, it's seen like the growth of the group overall and how the participants have grown, you know, as group members. So I recently, because of COVID, there's all these restrictions, and I think, you know, it's so hard with mental health. Access to care is like the biggest thing, and trying to make it as convenient and easy for people to get the help that they need, and putting all these restrictions on them makes it very hard. So I had to get a little creative, and my groups were ultimately I was supposed to get them set up and then turn them over to the veterans and let the veterans run the groups themselves. And I was just there to offer support as needed. And some of my groups were newer, so they weren't really ready for that. But one of my groups, after 3 years, I finally sat down and I was like, look, this is the problem. We're having veterans that we have to refuse services to because of COVID. I'm like, but if I turn the group over to you, we don't have to do that anymore, and they can start attending. And, you know, they immediately stepped up and said, yeah, I'll take over the group. I'll do this. You know, I'm ready. I feel good enough that I could run this group. And it was just beautiful to see like the group grow to the point where they could take over and do this and support one another themselves. And I think that was my big moment.
That too. I mean, I'll do the good that happens in other people's lives. Maybe you're just supposed to be the good right then, you know? And I think you guys are all doing that for people. And I appreciate you guys so much. And I'm going to shamelessly plug something for everyone too. So today we started a membership drive for NAMI Northern Illinois. As you know, like our members are family members, people with lived experience, professionals. I mean, we need everyone to change the system, and like building out our network is something that means a whole deal to us, you know, maintaining our current relationships, growing new ones. That's how we impact the most lives. So shameless plug for our membership drive. And I'll add that to the email too. Does anyone have any more questions for our presenters tonight? I know they're all looking forward to joining the groups. So thank you guys for coming to watch this too. Any parting?
I always do. I want to make sure that we give a lot of credit to Danielle for the great work that she does in holding the organization down. You do a great job, Danielle, and it wouldn't happen if it wasn't for you. So.
Thank you, Lauren.
Okay.
Absolutely. We do have a question. How do you find information about becoming a facilitator?
Mhm.
Well, either, do you know what kind of group you're looking for? Either way, you can give me a call at the office and we can talk about that.
Facilitator training takes place on a kind of a rotating basis. So you have to be trained before you can become a facilitator, but you got to become a member of the group first.
And Jonathan, Katie can't have my information. I don't know how that works, but we're in cahoots already.
Warren, last thing, I don't know if you missed the chat, but Joan sent you a message about applying at Rosecrans. So thanks.
I'm
Joan.
I'm writing it down, and I'm gonna keep you in my prayers, Joe.
Joan, I'll add that to the email too. Y'all are gonna get a lot of information, so watch out for it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Bye. Thanks for having us.
Good night.